start off, just sort of holding the book up, the book that we've come to discuss, the subject that we've come to discuss. We're bang in the middle of the World Cup, and this is a book that talks about India making it in the World Cup in a few years from now. Thank you. So, Gaurav and Neel, the co-authors of the book, Sunil, of course, and Kunaal, playing a huge role in popularizing the sport in the country. To start off, Gaurav and Neel, both born and brought up in the US, more or less, all schooling, all education, both Liverpool fans, writing about the rise of Indian football. How does that come about? And he'll talk about his US accent also.
Yes, I grew up in the US, and football, or soccer football, was my life. I started playing when I was 4 years old. I continued up the club system, traveled the country playing. In '94, when I was 14, the FIFA World Cup came to the US for the first time. And it was an incredible experience being a 14-year-old watching these matches. In '99, the Women's World Cup came. The US won. I was in the stadium with 100,000 people watching the US women beat China, and then millions of young girls playing football after that in the country. And then I had the beautiful opportunity to work for Major League Soccer and head up fan development and grow the fan engagement and the fan culture there. So for those years, I realized that football is such a big part of American culture, but everyone was saying that it's not a country where people love the sport. And I used to just tell that story as much as I could to tell, hey, no, this sport is changing people's lives across the country. In 2009, I moved to India. In the last 13 years, I've been working in football. And everyone keeps saying, India is a cricket country. It's not a football country. So because of my experiences, I wanted to, and thankfully both of us wanted to, put our passion and our experiences and our aspirations into this book to let people, the 1.4 billion people in the country and the billions outside of India, know that we are a football country and we have so much more potential to reach as well. We just need to do it together. So that was why I felt connected to this book.
Gaurav?
Yeah. I mean, just like Neel, I was very much born in India and was fortunate enough, my dad got posted to the United Kingdom. I was 8 years old when we went there. So my formative life, my formative years were in London. And just the sports culture there. In India, before going there, I was in second standard, third standard. We'd play cricket in the neighborhood park. But once I got to England, I realized how much importance sports is given in that country. Whether it was at school, whether it was playing in the neighborhood park, the conversations in school around sports, and it was just embedded into the culture of that country. It wasn't just football, it was cricket, it was baseball, other sports as well, athletics. And I got a taste of all of that at school at a very young age. It was almost imbibed in me that sports is just as important as maths and chemistry and science and all the other subjects, English, history. And that sort of got me thinking that, look, sports is something that I want to really pursue. I started playing cricket in England, started playing for a local club. Within a few months, I was approached by a county, which is Middlesex County Cricket Club. They invited me for trials. And it was my primary school teacher who actually paved the way for all of that. He called my father to school and said, look, in the physical education classes, we've seen that your son has a talent for cricket. Why don't you enroll him in a club in the neighborhood that you live in? And these are the 3 possible clubs you could take him to. Now, here's a school teacher who's doing that, calling my father to school and giving him that advice. In India, that would never happen. And because of that, that sort of set me on the path of following and falling in love with sports. The other thing that was really important was the fact that sports was always on television in the UK. Whether it was watching the Olympic Games in 1988, whether it was watching the FIFA World Cup in 1990, Italia 90. These events really molded me into following sports and pursuing it with a passion. So much so that, 30 years later, I've actually made it my career. I've been a broadcaster for nearly 2 decades now, initially on screen, and then now I get other people to come on screen and sort of work in the broadcasting space. I think it's the culture of sports and how important that is for everybody. And that's something that we've tried to capture in this book and show that if you really believe in something and if there is a interest in something, then you can really follow through with it. And in this country, there's a lot of interest in football. During the course of our research, we found that. And a little bit of that is what we've put in this book. So hopefully, you'll pick it up, you'll read it, get interested in sports, and football in particular, because it's an absolutely fantastic sport to follow.
Thanks, Gaurav. Sunil, just a couple of points that both Neel and Gaurav raised. India is a cricketing country with other sports getting overshadowed. Do you kind of agree? At one point of time, football, and I remember growing up on East Bengal and Mohun Bagan being really big, like it used to be passionately big. And the fact that Gaurav says a school teacher actually telling his father that here's a guy who should go into sports. What's your experience been with football and with how we take to sports?
Good afternoon, everyone. I think we do really well in cricket. We are, in the last 20 years of my understanding, always been in the top 3 in the world. And that is why we love cricket so much. But because we are 1.4 billion people, there is no doubt in my mind that we can do well in other sports also. Now, the problem lies in when Neeraj Chopra was 14, 13, 12, 11, 15, none of us knew him, wanted to know him, or go and see his training. Now suddenly Neeraj Chopra is the king of the country, and rightfully well. We all want a piece of him. When Saina Nehwal was 11, 12, 13, 14, training, none of us wanted to go and watch her. Very few maybe. And now we all want an autograph and a picture. So I think until that changes, we will always be watching Olympics and saying, "Yaar, hame kyun nahi milta medal?" And the day we achieve that, every talented kid, a young boy sitting over there, if all of them who are talented and who want to play, doesn't matter what sport, if we can give them the right infrastructure, the right encouragement, then whatever we achieve in the Olympics or in any sports, we can raise our hands and say, this is the best we could. But the problem is, countries like USA, countries like China, countries like Australia, they do historically well in Olympics. One of the reasons why they do well is because of the numbers they can choose from. There are other aspects also why they do well, but one of the very important aspects, they have a bigger pool to choose from. It's always helpful. It's maths. And so do we.
So we don't, despite that pool, we don't get
We
there.
don't. No, we hardly tap into the talent. We don't. And the number one reason, and it might be a little bit controversial, is because we are not a sporting country. And we should not be ashamed of admitting that we are not a sporting country. And going back to his point, I think math, science, biology, all of them are important. But call me biased, there is nothing in this world which can teach a kid holistic improvement than sports.
Yeah.
There is nothing. And before, young man, you get happy, do not neglect biology, science, maths, they're also important. But I can debate with anyone because there is nothing that will improve a kid physically, mentally, taking losses, giving it your best. Next day is again a new day. All these things, only one thing in a holistic nature teaches, that's sports. So I don't know. So I don't know why, as a country, we are not awakening to the fact that sports should be mandatory and the number one thing. You can be whatever you want, an engineer, a doctor, anything. Sorry, I'm digressing because we are talking about football, but sports should be mandatory. Because if nothing, we'll have physically fit, mentally stable, and strong people in our country if everyone's playing sports.
Did growing up, did like when you started playing football or when you started thinking that this is going to be what I want to do, did the family and your environment come in support, or what was it like? You know, just
Family, I think I'm the most blessed kid ever in the face of earth. And I don't say it because all kids say my mom dad बहुत अच्छे हैं. But my mom and dad are superhumans. When I was young, and now this is the teaching to the parents, respecting others and being disciplined was mandatory. Rest, they allowed me to express me and my sister to do anything I wanted. So we never had to cheat, we never had to lie. When I wanted to eat, I was eating. When I wanted to watch television, I was watching television. When I wanted to play, I was playing. There was no mix match in my head. कि आपने किताब खोल लिया and you're thinking about football. Yeah, you're watching television and thinking about food. Nope. Because my parents told me and encouraged, do exactly what you want, but give it your best. So that competitive nature of giving my best was right from day one because my mom, especially my mom, because my father was in army, he kept moving, was there. Do not cheat. Because at the end of the day, as kids, we don't understand. We're not cheating anyone else, we're cheating ourselves. So that's why my parents were outstanding. In school, I faced problems because one day I got up and I asked my class teacher, I want to be a footballer. My friend here who wants to be an engineer has 18 classes in a week. For him to improve, I only get 2 classes PT, white shoes, go and run and come back. What are my chances? As a nice teacher, she told me, shut up and study and sit down. I hope and I've heard from a lot of schools, things are changing. The next Sunil Chhetri is going to ask, I want to be a footballer, whatever, he or she will be encouraged. Because it's outstanding. Sports for every kid should be mandatory. I might be a little bit harsh, but you want to become anyone, and I want to repeat myself, play sports. It teaches you the best. You're going to be a better human being.
thank you, Sunil. We'll come back to aspects of that, bringing Kunal into the conversation. You have been part of, and we'll come to Sunil on that also, the Bangalore Football Club as a media, and you've just sort of taken steps to kind of get football out there.
So he said, listen, so all you guys, staff, it's not mandatory, but if you do it, then they'll know that we're all in this together. It was basically do it. Brown rice, never eaten in my life. Brown bread, never. Broccoli, no chance. So chicken breast, come on. And we said, okay, fine, yes, let's do it. So it started with things like that. And we were literally pushing that food down our throats, and these guys were just, they were snickering at us because they saw us struggling, but we had to do it. Small things like, he'd come in and ask us, so when's this going to be done? Yeah, 5-10 minutes. No, 5 or 10, pick one. I'm like, okay, this is, where as past this minute kar denge. No, 5 or 10, you pick one. If it's 5, I'll come back in 5. He walked out of our first press conference because there was no journalist at 12 on the dot. 12:01, I'm out of here. When do you tell the journalists about the time? Yesterday. When do you tell me? Yesterday. We both had the same time to prepare for it. I'm out of here. And it's my first job in a football club. I'm like, this is going to end badly. I was a journalist. My life was good. What was wrong? Why did I change it? But yeah, I think getting foreigners makes a difference. Getting the right foreigners makes the big difference. And he'll tell you, there was a fine for everything for us also. Wrong socks, fine. 2 minutes late, fine. Phone goes off, fine. It's, yeah. So it's all off the pitch, he'll tell you more.
So whatever Kunaal said, it came as a shock to Kunaal and all because it was something new. The reason why we bring foreign players and foreign coaches is not because they are foreigners, because they are doing this from a long time. There is something that is working there. They're better than us. It's not because they are different from our country. It's just getting better people in our country to train with. And that is why the level of ISL players have improved because they are training day in, day out with better players. The foreign element in that statement is not important. The better is important. Getting those discipline, which was unheard of. I'll give you a small example. Maybe you will understand it. If tomorrow Namibia wants to open a cricket academy, they are going to take, let's suppose, 50-year-old Virat, because he'll play till 49. Yeah, 50-year-old Virat Kohli over there to change the system. So Virat Kohli will be a foreigner there, but he's not going there because he's an Indian. He's going there because he's good. and it's going to change stuff. So whenever you hear the word foreigner, do not take it otherwise. It is not that the club is very happy paying somebody from England in rupees and get the money out. Nope. It's just because a lot of them are better than us. And when they come, they make the whole surrounding better with small anecdotes like this or training on the pitch with better players. That's how you become better. And that is the reason why we bring it. And yeah, they struggled. They struggled big time because the fine was for everything.
No, also quickly, before you asked me about the West Block Blues, and I see a few Bengaluru FC shirts here, so it'd be wrong if I skip that question. Absolutely love it when you rep this club and rep this city with the shirt on, man. 100%. What we did was we got the players and the management into confidence saying, listen, we're a brand new club, zero supporters, nothing, no history, nothing to fall back upon. So we will erase this line, this non-existent line between fans and players. So we said, listen, at the Bangalore Football Stadium, it's an open training session. Okay, you can watch the boys Monday, 9 a.m. only. The truth is you can walk in whenever you want to and watch them whenever you want to. No one's going to stop you. But we started making things exclusive for these fans. And then it was important to have the buy-in of these players to say that, listen, let's do this together because we are going to need fans in the stands. We're not going to win games just because of the football. And these guys, I mean, we've literally gone to the shadiest little pubs and bars in the city with a poster. Ashley Westwood, mate, we've got to go to a pub. So I took him to Arbor, and he's like, no, something smaller. No, something smaller. And we literally went to those shady ones with curtains, and there's an Englishman, and there's somebody from Bombay. We don't know Kannada in 2013, and we're trying to sell and saying, listen, we're playing Mohan Bagan on September 22nd. You've got to come and watch. And I'm like, how's this going to work? But we were on the pitch at 2 a.m. the night before our first game thinking, how are we going to fill 4,000 people here? And then 5 years later, we reached the semi-final we reached the final of the AFC Cup, the only Indian club to do it, and we had 30,000 people in Kandira. So we've done something right. I don't know what that is, but we've just put our heart into it, and we've been honest with everything. And I think once you're honest with it, everything happens, yeah?
I mean, one thing I want to say about Bangalore FC, and I think they're being pretty humble as well, because they are the model club in India, and one of the reasons why is that they're all about community. So whether you have a legend like Sunil or a younger player or anybody, or even the staff, they go out and they believe they're a part of the DNA and fabric of Bangalore. And everything that they do is so city-centric or so state-centric. And one of the things that I really stand by, even in the US, what worked was, one is community, another one is consistency, and three is patience. And what they've been is all about community first. They've been very consistent with what they do. Sometimes they're winning the league, sometimes they're not, but they're consistently putting good content out there and building meaningful relationships. And three is they're ensuring that everyone knows that this is a lifelong relationship. So be patient. Be patient. This takes time. It's only been 10, 11 years. You know, these things take time to have these meaningful relationships between the fans and the community, and to see consistency on the pitch. And it's okay if we're all in it together, which makes it worthwhile.
Yeah. So I will come to one of the very interesting aspects of the book is the fandom, and which is the reason a sport grows. You know, and yesterday I was in the evening, I was out with my son and at one of these malls, and we actually came across people with the Bangalore shirt, you know, and then my son pointed out, okay, there's a match with Mohan Bagan that's going to happen. So for the first time, I actually saw people at a community like a mall wearing Bangalore shirts, and they're obviously on the way to the ground. So, you know, how about just take us through this fandom thing? You know, you've talked about fathers and sons into, you know, sort of supporting Argentina and Brazil, one of them painting one side of the house in yellow, the others painting the other side in blue. So if you just...
So fandom, it's very interesting. At the core of it, each and every one of us is a fan. Whether it's sports or whether it's any pursuit that you enjoy, you are a fan of that particular pursuit, that hobby that you do. With football, you know, whenever I speak to somebody and they don't follow the sport, or they only get interested every 4 years, you know, I call these fans as flirts, because because they get interested in football every 4 years when the FIFA World Cup comes around, because it becomes water cooler conversation. You want to know what happened last night. You want to know how Morocco did. You want to know how Iran did.
How many of you are watching the ISL? Yeah, we need to up those numbers, no?
Correct, absolutely. We need to make ISL water cooler conversation. We need to make Indian football, the I League and all the other academies and teams that are playing there. We need to make that water cooler conversation and not just the FIFA World Cup. But at the core of it, we're all fans. And what I tell anyone who wants to get interested in sports or in football in particular is go and watch a match at a stadium. There is no substitute for going and watching a match at a stadium. The feeling that you will get, the sense of camaraderie that you will get, the sense of belonging almost that you will get when you go to a football match is like none other. And Kunaal and Sunil sitting here can probably attest to this, because when they started, as Kunaal was saying, it was a struggle to get even 4,000 fans into the stadium. Last night, we were at the Kantirva watching Bengaluru FC play against ATK Mohan Bagan, two massive clubs in Indian football, and there were close to 17, 18,000 people in the stands, all coming, watching, and they had a lot of fun even before the match. If you go to the Kantirva and you watch football, you'll see that on the concourse, there are so many activities. There's so much fun stuff that you can do before a match. If you reach 2 hours before, you will not get bored at all. So my advice to anybody is, go and watch a match at a stadium, and you will absolutely love it. And after that, you'll slowly begin to fall in love with the sport. You'll begin to follow it. And before you know it, from a casual fan or a flirt, as I call them, you'll end up then becoming, a supporter. And once you become a supporter, that's when you are emotionally invested in the sport. That's when you'll buy the jersey with the crest on it. That's when you'll want to go and buy those tickets, because at the end of the day, that merchandise that you're buying, the tickets you're buying, is actually going to help your team buy that next superstar player. And it's helping to grow the entire ecosystem. So everything that you do as a fan is very, very important, and which is why fandom and all these fan clubs, why do professional football clubs love fan clubs? They help them with their screenings and various other things. It's because they want to grow and promote the sport. And as far as the Indian national team is concerned, there are a bunch of fan clubs that are out there. You get to see them supporting the team even away from home when they're playing outside of the country. In the previous edition of the FIFA World Cup in Russia, nearly 35,000 Indians went and saw matches. That number is expected to go up by the time the Qatar World Cup ends. So there are so many of your fellow countrymen going and watching the sport. My only request would be, and a humble one at that, go to a stadium, sample it, enjoy it, and then your views on football and supporting and going to the stadiums will change.
I think if I can add, if after all this, if you're not convinced, think about this. This is something that you'll understand. So whatever you consume on telly, on your pads, on your phone, is something which outcome you already know. No matter what you're consuming. And I'm not against it. Keep watching your life. Here is something which is called live sports. You have no clue. All the BFC fans yesterday, including me, we thought the result is going to be BFC winning easily. We didn't. We lost the game. No one knew. So the fun of watching the best game in the world and not knowing the outcome and being like this in thrill is something the ones who are not watching live sports, you are missing out. Everything else that you consume in life, you know the outcome already. Live sports is unbelievably good. Football, the best sports in the world. Do your match.
We'll now just bring this conversation to the main focus of the book, which is when do we see India at a World Cup? And, we'll have all of you, and I don't want to butt in with questions because I want that from all of you. Sunil, of course, I'll come back. Since you have played professional football outside the country also, in Europe, in the US with the best clubs, is that a way for us to develop our players? Is that something you think we should be doing? And how should we be going about it?
See, generally when I'm asked this kind of question, I'm in a school or somewhere and I just say whatever comes in my mind. But today there are a lot of smart people. Kunaal told me there are a lot of smart people coming over here. So I can't just say whatever comes in my mind. So I'll try to say the truth as close as I can be. We are 15th to 18th in Asia in ranking, somewhere between 15 to 18. The top 6 teams from Asia play the World Cup. 3 have qualified from their group: Australia, South Korea, and Japan. Thank you. You guys are watching. Australia, don't get shocked. The ones who don't know, they play in AFC. They are not here. Geography kid, they are not here, but they play for AFC. In the coming edition, it might be 8 to 9 teams from Asia. We are 15 to 18. We're doing quite well. The number one target for us as a nation, as a captain and as a player, is to come in the first 10 of Asia. What will happen then is, and it's not going to be easy, what will happen then is you will see us rubbing shoulders with the best of Asia. So the day we are in a regular basis playing against Saudi, UAE, South Korea, Japan, Australia, Iran, Iraq, Uzbekistan, Jordan, Qatar, no one will ask me this question because you will know the answer, exactly how far we are. So before we jump into the question that when are we going to play the World Cup, your honest question and demand to us players should be how soon can we get into the first 10 of Asia? Once we get into the first 10 of Asia, you will see us playing quite often. You must have seen us playing against UAE, Thailand, and Bahrain in the last Asia Cup. We gave a good account of ourselves. We should have qualified. Now, again, you will see us in Asia Cup. You will get a little bit more better understanding. And once we do that, no one in the country will ask us, when are we going to play the World Cup? Because we all will have the answer. The road is not going to be easy. Because even jumping one ranking in football is not easy. Everyone is working hard. Even we are. We're going to put our head down and keep working hard. But the first target, as far as I'm concerned, is to reach the first 10 in Asia and stay there. Because then you can see the dream and you can analyze how far we are.
That's very, yeah, absolutely. So,
I should have gone last.
yeah, absolutely. Right. Neel, that's a very sort of very straight and honest opinion. Let's have you just read out a little bit of what all of us are imagining. And this is one of the loveliest. And then I'll leave the stage for the 4 of you to take us through what will get us there.
Imagine. The date is 17th June and the year is 2034. India is scheduled to play its first ever match in a senior FIFA World Cup, and it is against England. It is like no other day in India's 87 years as a nation. The entire country has come together to celebrate this momentous occasion. The excitement for this match has been building up for nearly a year when India dramatically beat China with the last-minute goal to qualify for the 2034 FIFA World Cup. A goal that produced massive celebrations across the country and woke up Indian politicians, corporate leaders, and influencers to the immense power that football holds to bring a nation together to support a single cause. The Indian Prime Minister makes a speech from the FIFA World Cup host country and declares that 17th June will now be known in India as National Football Day. The leader of the opposition party joins him on the dais, and together they lay out an ambitious football development plan that includes having 50 million children playing football regularly, 20 world-class stadiums, 10,000 football training centers, and 50,000 turf pitches all in place across the country by 2050. The sight of the leading and opposition parties so seamlessly aligning on an issue that would benefit the nation sparks hope and optimism in the hearts of 1.5 billion people living in India. The British Prime Minister makes a brief appearance on the dais, committing his country's support to India's football development plan. Even religious leaders representing all major religions practiced in India have come together to offer their blessings and encourage citizens to pray for the success and good health of our mighty Blue Tigers. Indian news outlets and social media platforms are loving the pandemonium surrounding the FIFA World Cup. All networks, streaming platforms, and newspapers have been covering every aspect of India's preparation for this match for months. A documentary showcasing India's journey to the 2034 FIFA World Cup sets the global record for the most views of a sports documentary across any OTT platform. India's top cricketers and Bollywood stars are chatting about football non-stop on their social media feeds, all wishing the Indian national team luck, sharing past images when they were hanging out with India's star footballers and posting videos of themselves kicking a ball around. The streets of India are engulfed in football mania. Most corporates have given a day off to their employees, and those that did not encouraged their staff to sport their favorite football kit in the office. Animated digital images of India's starting 11 are projected on buildings, hoardings, and in the sky. There are day-long melas and fan fests taking place in all 28 states. While the masses enjoy the football festivals, teams of workers are busy setting up large screens in public places across the country, ensuring everyone can watch the evening match. Pubs, coffee shops, and social clubs are brimming with men and women of all ages discussing and debating every football topic under the sun, while fueling themselves with alcohol, caffeine, and kombucha. The youth keep themselves engaged by playing football in turfs, gullies, and on the beach, only stopping to put on their virtual reality headsets to get in a few quick matches of India versus England on FIFA 34. The party is not just in India, though. Over 1 million Indians have traveled to the host country to watch the match live in the stadium or party together at the FIFA's World Football Fair. The host city's airport has never been busier as India's billionaires, new and old, fly in with their influential friends in tow. The tarmac is chock-a-block with one private plane quickly followed by another as a queue of limousines patiently wait for their high-profile passengers to arrive. The official Indian National Supporters Group, Blue Pilgrims, organized over 500,000 people to parade through the host city dressed in blue, singing patriotic songs about India with doles in hand. The Indian football party spreads even further beyond the borders of the subcontinent and the host country. Fans of the top clubs in Spain, Italy, Germany, and France that have Indian footballers on their rosters turn to social media to express their support for India as they go up against England. Indian communities in Canada, the United Kingdom, the United States, and Australia get together to celebrate the match with Indian food, traditional outfits, and bhangra, and many of them claim to feel more at ease publicly displaying and celebrating their culture in these countries. Even non-Indians who feel some emotional connection to the country sit in their homes or pubs across the world excited to support India's maiden voyage into the exciting waters of the senior FIFA World Cup.
So just short before we open up to the audience, Sunil, Gaurav, Kunaal, what does this vision look like?
Okay. So 2034, 22 years, maybe 21 years to go. To get there, a lot needs to happen. This was a dream sequence, right, that we put in the book. But a lot needs to happen on the ground for this dream sequence to become a reality. But every time I read this passage, you know, the hair on the back of my neck stand up because I can almost visualize it. And for a lot of this to happen, it's the 4-year-olds of today. I can see a lot of parents in the crowd. I can see a lot of young kids as well. It's the 4-year-olds, the 6-year-olds that we need to focus on now as of today, probably as of yesterday, because they're the ones who are going to be in their peak by the time this particular World Cup comes around. They're the ones who are going to help us qualify for this FIFA World Cup. And that is why focusing on and imbibing and embracing not just the sport, but the culture of sports in this country is really, really important. Because it's the youngsters of today who are going to power us to that World Cup. Whether it happens in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. But I am very convinced, you know, when I started working full-time in football, which was about 10 years ago, I'd often ask myself, will we qualify in my lifetime? Having worked now actively for 10 years in this ecosystem, I can very confidently say that within my lifetime at least, I feel that we can qualify for a FIFA World Cup. And it's the youngsters and the 4, 5, 6-year-olds that we need to focus on, and all of us need to do it together. Football and the league that I work in is an ecosystem where we have everybody from not just the players and the legends, but the broadcasters, the security men, the housekeeping staff, and all of these people go into making the spectacle that we see on TV. All of them are a part of this growth story. And the fans sitting here, the West Block Blues or the Blue Pilgrims, are equally a part of that. And I think we all need to sort of work together to ensure that India can truly qualify for a FIFA World Cup, because there are 200 countries, over 200 countries that try to qualify for this event. if we can make it to this World Cup, then we will truly have arrived on the world stage, I feel.
I think it takes a village to raise a child, and Indian football is that child. So it's going to take the coming together of everything and everyone to do it. He's optimistic about it happening in his lifetime. Do we want it in our lifetimes? Yes. May not be, but I think what we do now is so critical. I don't know how many of you guys have seen this little documentary on Maradona by Asif Kapadia, and there's Maradona signs for a club called Napoli in Italy, and they're considered the scum on the league table. They never win anything for decades together. And Maradona comes, turns it around, and eventually Napoli win the Scudetto, the Italian title. And the whole city is going crazy. And there's a big banner on the cemetery in the city. And the banner says, "You don't know what you've missed." And that just got me. I mean, that's for the people who supported the club, died supporting the club, never saw them win something. And the banner just says, "You don't know what you've missed." So if that has to happen to us, so be it. But I would like us to be the catalyst for that to happen.
Sunil, one final comment and then we'll have questions.
Well, all three of them summed it up in a very nice way. In that dreamy, rosy scenario, I only have two options. Either I'm playing 2034 as a player, or I'm giving the speech as a prime minister. So,
Do we have any questions here?
I'll take it up from the beginning where Sunil said that, everybody should play sports. Excellent thought. Gaurav said that something about ecosystem. I'm going to connect both of these things. And I come from a lot of experience. I'm mother of a sportsman. My son is 18-year-old. He's fifth in amateur golf, All India today. I'm an army officer's wife. My younger son's here. He plays badminton 3 hours every single day. Having said all that, we still struggle with schools. I think ecosystem should start from schools. Why can't we make sports more equitable with studies? It's very easy to say, you see 3-year-old, 4-year-old here. But as parents, it's not easy to take that stance. So I see all of you, different elements of this entire sports arena. I'd like to know from you, what can bring change at that level?
Okay. I'll start. So, as I had mentioned, sports is something that we need to build into almost our consciousness, our culture. And it's something that has to be, as you rightly said, brought in at the school level itself. The importance that the physical education session takes in school has to be given much more importance. And I'll again give you the example of when I was back in school during my formative years studying in London. The physical education session was just as important as the other sessions. The other thing that we are now noticing, so one is obviously making the schools realize how important sports is. That's first, and you're absolutely right there. The second thing is that now, for a parent, sports needs to be considered a viable career option. And that is something that we are seeing now. If you look at the last 15 years in this country, the plethora of professional leagues that have come up, right? Starting from the Indian Premier League, the IPL, then you had the ISL, you've got a Kabaddi League, you've just this year itself had a Kho-Kho League starting. There is volleyball, there are so a lot of table tennis, boxing, wrestling, all of these have had professional leagues starting, hockey as well. What that has done is, it has created an ecosystem. And that ecosystem has meant that a lot of players, young players coming through the system, can now viably make sports a career option. It's not just the cricketers who are bringing in the endorsements and signing those multi-lakh, multi-crore deals just to play the sport. Now that's happening with other sports as well. And as a result of that, if a young player can sign a 3-year, 2-year, multi-year contract and play for 10 to 12 years professionally, then chances are he would have earned enough money to sort of pursue a second career when he retires from the sport. And I think that change also begins at home. For the parent to realize that if my son or daughter is really good at a sport, then let's push them as much as we can And let's invest all that we can, time, effort, money, whatever it takes, to then try and ensure that they make it. And after that, because now you have a lot of these professional leagues that have come up, there is a viable career option. You don't need a player to go abroad to earn the kind of money that he might have done earlier. And I think I'll let Sunil sort of take over from here because he's much more learned on this matter than I am.
Congratulations, ma'am, for the 18-year-old and for helping him and supporting him. I understand the problem because I told you in my story in a funny way I faced it. Things are changing and all of us are going to raise our voices and a lot of people above us are also doing and trying to make things right. It is going to take time, and in that time you might lose hope a day. Do not let that affect him. You are going to lose hope. It's all right. You are a parent. You can cry. Come back. Give him the support. Because if he is not getting support from all this, and if he loses your support also, the war is done. So I know it's difficult, ma'am. I know it's very, very difficult. But you have done it with the 18-year-old. Kudos to you. Congratulations. Do it for him. Everything will follow. And let's suppose worst comes scenario, we all fail. You don't fail him, please. That's your hope.
Thank you. Thank you so much.